Good evening and welcome back to another exciting episode of the Business Blueprint. For all those that came, I thank you again every Wednesday. The third Wednesday of each month, I bring this live episode to you. And if you caught the last episode, you know I bring nothing but the best guests and entrepreneurs to this segment. So, without further ado, tonight's guest is Luke Marino from Cetera Investors. Luke, wave to the camera on the side. Everybody can see him right there. Give a little wave. Yeah, see, real people here, real people, not AI, like not AI like other shows that you watch. As you know, those that are new to the show, I'm Quentin McDougall. I'm the host of Business Blueprint. I'm also the CEO and founder of Nothing But Web Business Consultant and Web Design. Yes, web design. So if you need a website, I'm the guy for you. You know, I got you. You know, anything you need. And again, if this is your first time watching, I usually typically start the show off with everybody that comes on here are personal invites of myself. So let me give you my introduction of how I know Luke. Me being an educator, those that know my backstory, as you know, as an educator, the biggest thing you want to do is save for the future. Me being a younger educator, you know, I'm a little around, you see the little gray in the hair, but being an educator over the years, you know, you have different types of people that come in and they want to pitch different things, talk about retirement. When you're a young educator, you're like, I want to keep all my money. I don't want to hear anything about it. But as I started to get up there, you know, I'm not going to reveal my age, but one of these days, you know, I met Luke. So Luke came into the building. He decided to say, "Hey, are you doing anything for retirement?" I'm like, yeah, maybe I think it's about that time I should start thinking about it. And then he was like, "Oh, let's do a meeting." Now, again, in education, we have all kinds of people that come in, they stop in. Sometimes they bring cookies, popcorn, donuts. Most teachers, they go to the teacher's lounge and, hey, you know, me get the free popcorn. But something about Luke stuck out definitely. So not only was he great as far as explaining everything, he was great with following up. So we'll talk about that today, about the power of following up. So he followed up with me, invited me to these different dinners that they have, you know. So, and he kind of, you know, I felt like a nice free agent, you know, sports free agent, you know, hey, you need this, you need that. But long story short, we've been probably working with each other, I don't know, multiple years. Luke, you could probably speak to that. What do you think? 8, 9 years, something like that?
About 8, yeah, about
About
8.
8 years. So this guy is my guy. Not only is he a financial advisor and helps you with planning, he also helps your family. I'm big on family. You know me and the network. All you guys are my family members. He not only helps myself, he helps my wife, and he's all about the family and the kids. So the very first thing, whenever he checks in with me, when he does, because he actually follows up, I told you the power of following up. He always asks about how's the kids doing. And with his company, he'll talk about the different things. They offer a lot of things for kids, adults, teachers, non-educators. So without further ado, it gives me great pleasure to bring in the great Luke Marino for Cetera Investors. So, Luke, please introduce yourself. I hope I did you justice. Thank you again. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in tonight. This is Luke Marino.
Well, thank you, Quentin. Yes, I appreciate that introduction. That was an excellent story. I don't think I could have said it better myself. I mean,
Yeah, I
that
did you
was
justice.
awesome.
Verbally. Verbally.
Thank you for that, Quentin, and thank you for having me on here. You know, it's an absolute pleasure to be a part of this. You know, I remember when you were telling me about this idea, when it was just an idea, and to see the network to be where it's at this point is just truly amazing. And now to be a part of it is you know, another level. So yeah, thank you again for having me on here. So yeah, just to kind of introduce myself. So as Quentin said, I've been a financial advisor for about 8 years now. I started actually right out of college. I'm a certified financial planner now. Um, and you know, it wasn't something that I always knew I wanted to do. Growing up, I actually went to school for accounting. Thought I was going to go, you know, do taxes, something. I was good at math, so thought I was going to go that route. And then, you know, kind of realized down the road, you know, towards the end of my college career, that it wasn't something I was truly going to be passionate about, right? And there was one thing my dad always told me growing up is whatever you do, do something that you like to do something do something that somebody's willing to pay you to do, right? And that wasn't that, and I was able to luckily just kind of fall into to this career, to really find my true passion, right? And my true passion is just helping people and creating and having an impact on people in their lives, spreading financial literacy. I mean, that's just what I love to do. When I was growing up, I grew up down by the shore here in Connecticut, and my parents took in 20 different foster children when I was growing up, and that was very tough as a child growing in that type of environment. It was really, really very interesting, to grow up, with, seeing all those different types of backgrounds of children coming in, and seeing the impact that we had on their lives, seeing the value that we brought to them by providing a stable home. That was just something that really, really stuck with me. Not only did we have, a huge impact on the kids that would stay with us, but it had a huge impact on shaping who I am to this day. And it's something that really always stuck with me. It really taught me the value of giving back at a very young age. And I think that's, something I've always thought I wanted to do something with my life that I could provide. I could provide some impact in somebody's life. I could provide some value in their long-term trajectory of their life. So I feel like that's how I got here, to where I am today. Really, ultimately, what it comes to what I do is I help people save and plan for their biggest goals in life, right? Whether that's, college planning, whether it's retirement, whether it's buying a home. Some of the biggest things that you go through in life, I'm there with you every step of the way. And that to me is very gratifying. One of the biggest of those goals is always retirement. And as Quentin that said, that's really how I got to know Quentin. That's how we started a relationship, is starting to think about retiring and needing to save for that one day, right? So that's always the biggest thing, with most of what I work with. And I think that, for today, that's what the topic is about. It's really about how do us as business owners, how do we save for retirement? What are the options out there? Why is it important? How do we even get started? So I wanted to provide that today, and I think it's incredibly important too, because to the society that we live in today, it's a lack of education out there, right? We don't go to school and we have to take a financial literacy course going through school, right? That's just not a thing. You're starting to see that a little bit more in some states, but in my opinion, I think that should be one of the top requirements to graduate high school. Take a financial literacy course, right? Teach me about investing, teach me about saving, teach me how to do a budget, teach me how to do taxes, right? Those are the important things in life when you get there, because then when you get there, you're just like, oh, I didn't know I had to do this, right? Um, so as I said, spreading financial literacy is really, really important to me. I love to educate. I love educating my educators that I have for clients. I find a lot of gratification in doing that. So why is it important to save for retirement? Well, and really with any goal, right? Well, you got to get there, right? You have a goal that you want to accomplish. First step is talking about it. But sometimes I find half of the value that I provide clients is just talking about goals, writing them down. What are your goals? How are we going to get there? How far are we, right? And why is it important to save for retirement? Well, we know at some point or another, one day, either your mind or your body is not going to let you work forever, right? And I have some people tell me, yeah, I'm gonna work till the day I die. I'm just gonna keep going. They love what they do, great, but you don't know if you can ultimately keep that up. You don't know if that's sustainable. Maybe you don't want to, right? Maybe you think you're going to sell your business, right? And that'll be your retirement plan. But who knows what that looks like, right? So there's so many variables. So that's why we save for retirement, so that we have the flexibility down the road. We have the ability to have financial freedom. Right? The more money we save and invest, the more freedom that we have down the road. You're paying yourself in the future. So you know that you're going to need income later on. When you retire, you become your own payroll department, right? You got Social Security. Social Security is a source of income for a lot of people out there. But Social Security, who even knows what that's going to look like 10, 20, 30 years from now? And it's certainly not going to cover everything that you need for most people out there, right? So that is why we save, we sacrifice today to save for tomorrow, so that you have the ability to live the life that you want to live down the road. Now, I'll be the first person to tell you it's important to save, but it's also important to enjoy the life that you have today at the same time, right? We don't want to save so much that we're just working to save for retirement. We want to enjoy what we have today at the same time. So you've got to strike a good balance when it comes to that. The other thing is inflation, right? We've all experienced unbelievable inflation over the past few years here. 40-year highs. It's like a once in a lifetime event. And if you think about the impact of inflation over long periods of time, let's say I'm making $3,000 a month today. 25 years from now, based on a 3% inflation rate, $3,000 a month today is not $3,000 a month 25 years from now. It's actually $6,000 a month. So I need $6,000 a month just to afford the same lifestyle that I needed 25 years prior, making 3,000, right? So that's the impact of inflation. So you have to save, you have to have your money working for you to combat inflation, make sure that you can keep up with that rising costs. The other thing is, this is almost, this is really just an advantage of saving and investing, for your retirement, really for anything. But compound interest is really one of the seven wonders of the world. And compound interest, the longer you have compound interest working for you, the better off you're going to be. And what compound interest is it's just your interest making interest, right? So you get some growth, right? Let's say you had 9% interest on $1,000, right? That's going to be $90, right? So now I have $1,090. Now that $1,090 makes 9%, so now it's a higher amount, right? So it's just that compounding effect that is very, very powerful, especially over long periods of time. So if I have, for example, if I'm making 9% on average, and I put $2,000 away, I invest $2,000 a year for 20 years. And if I'm starting at the age of 25, that $40,000 that I put in is valued at $625,000 at the age of 65. If I wait 10 years, right? If I wait to age 35 to start saving that $2,000 a year for 20 years, that $40,000, same $40,000 I put in, is equal to $264,000 with all that interest. The difference between that is $361,000. So just waiting 10 years, you lost out on $361,000. I mean, that is just unbelievable, right? You never really think about the cost of waiting, right? I'll just wait until I'm a little bit more comfortable. Putting just a little bit away can be very, very impactful over the long term, right? And if I waited another 10 years, it becomes an even bigger difference to $514,000 difference. Okay, same $40,000 invested. The other thing, why it's important to save for retirement and for the business owners, Connecticut actually passed a law that it is a requirement to offer a retirement plan if you have 5 or more employees. Okay, so not everybody has 5 or more employees. Maybe you're a sole proprietor. maybe you're working your way up to, have more staff, but that's something that I'm finding not a lot of people realize. That was passed about a year ago, a little over a year ago. That Connecticut requires that now. So it's unbelievably important, and clearly the state, and this is Connecticut's not the only one. There's other states. They think it's important that people save for their retirement too if they're requiring it, right? So that's important. And then the other importance is when you are building business, and you're adding staff and employees. One way of helping retain those employees is by giving them benefits. What the easiest benefit to offer them is a retirement plan, right? Whether it's a 401k with a match, or their own IRA. Sometimes for some smaller businesses, I'll do financial wellness workshops. So I'll actually come in and help educate the employees on different financial topics. It could be just about anything, and that's a benefit in itself, right? So that's one other important thing to think about as you are scaling your business, building up your staff. What benefits can you start to provide for them, right? So I'm just going to check in, Quentin. Any questions on your end so far on anything I covered?
Yep, absolutely. So one person in the chat says they asked the following question. They said that as they continue to earn money, is there a specific rule of thumb that they should put away for retirement? So for example, they said if they're making $1,000, how much should they allocate towards saving? How much should be retirement? How should be, just spending? They just wanted to know about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So everybody always looks for rules of thumb. Everybody likes rules of thumb, right? But it always is going to be dependent on who you are, right? What's your situation? How old are you? How much time do you have to retire? What's your budget look like, right? There's all sorts of factors. Rules of thumb will tell you you got to put somewhere between 15 and 20% of your income away for retirement. And then I always say another 15% towards your short-term or intermediate savings, right? Those types of goals. But again, it's always going to depend on what everything else looks like, where you're at. Do you have 3 kids and a mortgage, right? Sometimes I have those clients that sometimes we just got to tone things down for a little bit, and that's okay, right? We just life happens, right? We get in these bumps in the road, and especially nowadays things can be expensive, but you try to do your best to meet those thresholds, and go from there.
All right, and the next question they asked, it was reference to your 5 employees for the state of Connecticut. Is there a tracking system? How would they go about making sure that they're offering those programs to the employees if they have 5 more employees?
How would the state track that?
Yeah, how would the state? So, for example, they said they have about 10 employees. They just found out about this from you. Where would be the next step? Should they contact? Who should they contact about making sure that they start so they're in compliance with the state?
So there's a website. It's called, I think it's myctsavings.org.com, something like that. If you just Google my CT savings, you'll see the all the information come up for it. I don't know how well the state is tracking it at this point. It was supposed to. It was, like I said, it was about a year ago that this went in place, where you're supposed to be in compliant with this. But there's a lot of different ways you can do. Actually, the state of Connecticut is offering a free plan. It's like I call it the DMV of retirement plans. So I don't know how good it is. I don't know how much service you get with it, but it is a way where you can meet compliance with the rules without having to really spend any money. And they work with most payroll providers as well. So yeah, my CT savings is where you can find all that information on there. Just not exactly sure how that is tracked per se.
Okay. And then the last question is a quick one. They just said that if they wanted to start investing or saving for retirement, what's 1 or 2 suggestions where they can go to get started?
Well, I think there's a lot of information out there. A lot of the stuff that's out there, whether it's TikTok, YouTube, a lot of some information can be dangerous, right? A little knowledge can be dangerous if you get too comfortable, right? But I do think, when it comes to this stuff, it's too important to try and just do guesswork and try to do it yourself. I really think it's important to have a professional in your corner, have somebody you can talk to, whether it's me, whether you know somebody. I'm more than happy to have, even if it's just a simple conversation. I'm more than happy to have that conversation with you to point you in the right direction, or if I can help you myself, I'm happy to do that. So, yeah, I'd say pretty much you just want to be talking to some kind of professional. To talk about some of the advantages to retirement savings, for us as business owners. I mentioned a lot of the advantages with obviously compound interest, retaining staff, right? I think, especially when you think about retaining employees, if I've got, no retirement plan set up, but I've got, I'm an employee and I'm looking at X company over there that they offer a 401k with a 6% match. Well, that might just be the difference for me to go and jump ship, right? Obviously there's a lot of other factors that come into play there, but I think that's something that really gets overlooked by a lot of folks. Some people just don't even necessarily think about the benefits because they're not even educated on it, right? And so that's where, again, bringing in somebody to provide some financial wellness education for your staff, that's a huge value add. But some of the advantages that you can see right off the bat, right? Well, number one, we can lower our taxes by saving for retirement, right? And I know that's a big one for us, self-employed people, right? We are in a situation where we don't get tax returns, right? We have to write checks to the IRS in most cases, depending on how you're set up. So any sort of opportunity that we can get to lower our taxes, our tax liability, well, we're going to take it, right? So a lot of these retirement accounts are set up to give you a tax deduction. You can write off your income. You can defer, salary if you're set up that way. So it's coming out before taxes. So that's a huge benefit right there. And on the flip side, let's say you don't care too much about your tax liability right now. Well, you could do it the opposite. You could do before. You could lower your taxes in retirement, right, as opposed to now. So you just do it the opposite way, depending on the type of vehicle that you're looking at. So there's a lot of different options out there. But again, that's one of those things you want to make sure that you're picking the right option for you. So huge benefit, huge advantage there, lowering our taxes. And then we can, depending again on the type of account that you have, you can contribute to employee accounts, right? So you can match their contributions. Like I said, you can do like a profit sharing. Okay. So think about that, right? Think about the incentivization that you have in there for your staff, right? If I've got, few people working for me and I tell them, hey, X percentage of profits that we get this year, I'm going to put in your 401k. I might work a little bit harder, right? Because I want the company to do well. I want to get a bigger profit sharing check into my retirement account, right? It's another way to provide an incentive to your employees. It's also another way for you to help compensate them, maybe less directly, right? You're not compensating directly in their check, but it's a win-win because you get the write-off as the business owner, and then your staff's happy at the same time. The other benefit with all retirement accounts, well, I should say most retirement accounts, is they grow tax deferred. Now, what that means, and especially especially being in Connecticut, where we pay a lot of taxes here. So I'm always looking for ways to avoid paying taxes where I can, right? We have to pay taxes one way or the other, but if we can minimize when and how we pay, well, I'm all ears, right? So any sort of retirement accounts, we do not pay taxes on the accounts as it grows, right? As opposed to, let's say, a brokerage account. Well, you got to pay taxes on those gains, those dividends that you have every single year, and that can eat away at your gains over time. That tax bill that you end up generating. So that's a huge benefit there. And then on top of that, while you're not paying taxes, again, you're also you're getting that compound interest. You're getting the compound performance each and every year that you're invested, right? So without paying taxes. In some cases, you can actually take loans against plans. Okay, depends on the type of plan it is, but this is a great opportunity where you don't have to go to the bank, you don't have to go to the credit card, you don't have to do any of that. It doesn't even matter if you have good credit. You could take a loan against your own retirement account, again, depending on the type of account, and now you're paying yourself back, right? I typically try to tell people to avoid this, but it is a nice added benefit where you have some flexibility. You're in a slump, you had something pop up that you need money that you don't have on hand. Great. All right, we'll tap into the 401k and we'll take a loan on it and we'll pay ourselves back, right? Much more relaxed, easier situation to deal with than maybe dealing with like a loan. And then the last thing is, ultimately I find that people just feel good when you have a retirement strategy, you have a retirement plan in place, the trajectory that you're on. And that's one thing that I'm very good at is running projections to see what is retirement going to look like based on what we're saving, based on, what kind of assumption of rate of return, based on taxes, right? Based on all these things that we actually know what retirement is going to look like, even if it's 30 plus years away, right? For generally, right? And I think when you know that, and when you have a really good strategy in place, you feel good, right? It's more of a psychological win than anything else. You feel great when you've got things in place where they need to be. You got things, kind of riding out as it needs to go for foreseeable future, and just knowing that you're going to have financial freedom, that is a big win, right? And that is not, that's just invaluable ultimately. So good check in again. Any questions, Quentin?
So one question, you mentioned as far as the process of taking a loan out on your retirement, not to go too in depth with that, but the question they wanted to know was, how is the repayment for that? Now, each month do they take out a certain portion to pay back the amount you borrowed? How does that work?
Yep. Yeah. So typically, again, it depends on the plan and all that, but the way it typically works is you can do anywhere between a 1 year and a 7 year payment plan on it. So you would set that up ahead of time, and you would have a set amount come out of your paychecks, that would go towards that loan, right? So on a every paycheck kind of basis, and you can overpay if you want. Like, let's say you did a 5 year plan and you got to pay $200 a month towards it, and 1 month you want to do 400. Okay, no problem. You're just going to pay it up a little bit sooner, and then you're going to have a little bit less interest. There is an interest on that, right? So even though you're taking a loan against yourself, your own account, you are paying some interest, but it's going back to yourself, which is the important thing.
Okay, and the last question, you also mentioned that you would be against that. So what's a con, or what's one or two cons against doing that besides the obvious?
Well, yeah. Well, I think I've seen it, very very often, where people it almost becomes habitual, right? And you don't want to be constantly taking out loans against your plan, to eventually you might default, right? If you default on your loan, well, now we've got a distribution, right? Now we've got a distribution on our retirement account where now you have to pay taxes and you have to pay penalties if you default on your loan. And then the other thing is, while when you take that loan, your money's not working for you anymore, right? It's not actually fully invested. So there's a lot of things in there. You just I think I've found over the years that the idea of leaving your retirement in its account for its primary purpose and let it ride out and not thinking about it, there's a couple wins in there, right? There's a couple of things long term where I think it's just a much better strategy overall, and we're not actually thinking about that money. I've so many people told me, like, oh, I'll do a review on their account, and they'll be like, look how much we're up this year, blah blah blah, and like, oh, I don't really think about it. That's monopoly money, and I find that those people that say that kind of stuff, I mean, it sounds silly, but that those are the people that end up being very, very wealthy in the end. Um, some of the people, my clients that are just millionaires. I mean, you would never guess that they're millionaires. You'd have no idea just by looking at them. And it's because they've made sacrifices all along the way. They didn't think about their retirement money as something that they can touch until they needed it.
So the response is thank you. You had them at taxes and penalties, so they definitely won't ever do that. All right, keep
Yep.
going.
Yeah, absolutely. So just to close it off here, I just wanted to kind of talk about some options. The options that you have available to you. There's so many options that you have available when you're looking at which retirement account was right for you. And I think the most important thing when it comes to this is there's no one size fits all. There really isn't. I really don't. I really think everybody's got their own unique situation. There's no cookie cutter approach that is appropriate for this. It's too important to not have help, to just kind of do it yourself. It's too important to to have any guesswork involved, right? So, there's a ton of options out there. There's a lot of information out there. Like I said, information can be dangerous. There's so much out there nowadays between all the things that, we're on, as far as like TikTok and, Instagram, YouTube. There's just so much. Some of it's really good, and some of it is dangerous, right? But if I look at the options, right? So defined benefit is the first one that I have written down. This is a little bit more uncommon nowadays. Defined benefit is just a fancy word for a pension. Okay. And a pension is just a stream of income that you get in retirement that's guaranteed for life. So it's not necessarily, you don't necessarily care about what the investments are doing. There are underlying investments with it, but you don't necessarily care about it. You care about what's the income that you're going to get in retirement. This is very, very uncommon, but I have seen it out there. Like state workers have pensions, that kind of thing. But for small businesses, yeah, that you're almost non-existent. And then one of probably the most common types of account is a 401k, right? I feel like everybody's heard of 401k. I set somebody up with an IRA, and they call it their 401k. I set somebody up, like my educators have 403bs. 403b is like a 401k for teachers. It's just tax code for the IRS. That's all the difference is. But even my educators call it. Some of them call it 401k. Oh, that's my 401k, right? I don't know. I don't know why, but yeah, 401k is probably the most common. 403b, 457. Those are all similar types of accounts. Just like I said, different tax code for the IRS to know where you work. 401k is for your for-profit companies. 403b is going to be your not-for-profit, and 457 is going to be your state workers, typically. And that's you can have like solo Ks, they call them. So if you're a sole proprietor and you want your own 401k, you can do that. And then, there are advantages to that. And then there's also disadvantages to that, of course, like anything. So I have seen 401ks for smaller businesses, for sole proprietors, but probably not as common. What is pretty common with a lot of my smaller businesses is what's called a simple IRA. Okay, and a simple IRA is essentially it, it it looks a lot like a 401k, and it feels a lot like a 401k, where you have, you can match it. You as the employer, you can match your employee's contribution. You got different limits on there, but yeah, it's a lot like a 401k there. Another very common, so for sole proprietors, if you're just on your own, working in your own business, a SEP IRA is very common. Okay. And a SEP IRA is great because you can put in quite a bit of money. The contribution limits are relatively high compared to everything else. So that's a pretty common one. And then some of the other ones you've probably heard of are traditional IRA, which is just your own personal retirement account. IRA stands for individual retirement account, right? So it's something you're doing on your own, or you can do it through a brokerage firm. And that's something that gives you a tax deduction based on the money that you put in. And then the other one's a Roth IRA. Okay, so same thing, your own retirement account, but the difference on this is just taxes, right? So you don't get the tax deduction on the front end. You get the money tax free when you take it out in retirement. So pretty nice benefit there. And then, of course, lastly, is the Connecticut option that I had mentioned, my CT savings. It's like I said, it's like the DMV of retirement plans, but that is out there if you really, if you got a really tight budget. A lot of these plans don't cost much. Like even if you opened up your own IRA, the costs are relatively minimal. It's not like we're paying for health insurance here. But if you got a super tight budget, the Connecticut option is out there for you if that you need that to satisfy that need. But yeah, so like I said, there's actually more than this. So those are all pretty much all the options. But I think again, if this is sparking some thoughts, if you think you need to have a conversation on this, I mean, have a conversation, right? A conversation doesn't hurt. And it's like I said, it's just too important. You don't want to just go with a cookie cutter approach on this. You want to find the right fit for you and who you are and what your business is, and not only where your business is, but where's your business going, right? Because we want to make sure that we're in the right plan for that.
Very informative information for those that are out there watching. Thank you for all the great information. So this segment is brought to you by the Business Blueprint and from Idea to Impact. I'm going to ask you a couple questions. I had some from the chat. I have my own personal ones I've been kind of developing as we're going through. My first question to you is, what 1 or 2 things that you find most rewarding about what you do?
Yeah, well, I think one of the things that I love is seeing it work. Seeing clients actually use the money that we've been working so hard to save. I mean, you especially when I was first starting in this career, you tell people to save money and sacrifice, and you don't necessarily see that it works. But I'm partnered with a guy that's been doing this over 45 years. I've been able to see what his clients have been through, and seeing the success of what he's done for them, and now starting to see that with my own clients. It's an unbelievable feeling when you've actually gotten there and they're actually living the retirement that we've been talking about for years. So that's
Definitely got to be rewarded.
yeah.
to see it all the way through. Um,
Absolutely.
my next question to you now with social media, I'm gonna see. I'll preface this for social media. It could be good, it could be bad. What's one
Yeah.
of the more frustrating things that you have found in your profession with social media?
Oh man. Um, yeah, I'm not a big social media guy myself. I probably should be, but remember when we were all locked down during COVID and nobody had anything better to do but look be on social
Yeah,
media and you had all that information out there. You had, you know, people buying GameStop stock, which was a failing company,
yeah.
and people were saying, should I buy GameStop? And that, that's the kind of stuff that's out there. I mean, it's come down a little bit. I think there, again, I think there is some really solid stuff out there.
Okay.
Like I had somebody I had today, I had somebody come in and she said, yeah, TikTok said I should start a Roth IRA. I agree. I actually agree with that. But again, with any social media or anything like that, it's all cookie cutter. It's all blanket advice. But you're your own person, right? It can't be the right advice for everybody. So that's probably the most frustrating thing about it.
I mean, I could definitely see that because like you said with COVID, everybody, either they were buying crazy stocks or they became their own financial advisors and then had to
Yep.
tell people you should do this and you should do that. And I know you're probably like, no, this this kind of watch is so crazy. Yeah, yeah, I can listen. I could tell. I just know with I see the same thing with my profession. A lot of people kind of jump out there and they kind of like, yeah, I saw such and such do it. I can do it too. But they don't understand that, all the work you put into it and the years and experience and everything like that. So, definitely commendable as far as what you're doing. Um,
Right.
my next question. So, you probably got to think about this. You probably got a lot of these. So, what's one particular success story that you had with a client that you're most proud of?
One particular success story. Hmm. Yeah, I mean, it's how do we how do I narrow that down in a couple minutes? Yeah, let me think about that.
Okay.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah, actually, one person's coming to mind. I remember there's a lot of abuse in my industry. There's bad people out there that are you know claiming to be professionals, and it's generated business for me, which is nice. But it's not good to see, because the money that we're dealing with is people's hard-earned life savings that they are absolutely dependent on. And I had a client early on in my career. I met with him. He handed me a pile of statements,
Mhm.
and he was worried about the market. He was really, I guess, on edge, is the best way to put it, because the guy was in his 60s and he was mostly invested in stocks, right? So he was taking way too much risk for his risk tolerance and where he was at. Not only that, but he was in almost all annuities.
Oh,
And annuities, I'm not going to bash annuities because they can work and for some people, but the amount of fees that he was paying, on these products that he had were unbelievable. I mean, he was paying 3-4% in some cases. And so not only was he taking too much risk, but he wasn't even getting any reward for the risk because it was all getting eaten away at fees. Right. So I was, when I sat with him, I pretty much just grabbed all the statements, did the research, got back to the office, did the research for him, got back to him, and kind of told him what he had. He had no idea what he had. He had no idea what he was paying in fees. He had no idea it was an annuity, right? And I was able to, get him out of it, and really just realign things to where they need to be to provide him stable income. for the rest of his life, because he was retiring. And he to this day, I just saw him probably a few months ago, and he's just so relaxed now. It's like he's a different person.
Yeah.
He trusts me. He wanted at first he wanted to meet like 4 times a year, which I was like, fine. Typically I don't do that, but I was like, fine, we'll do that. Now he doesn't even call me. But it's just we have our once a year review, and he's good. And he's just so relaxed, and it's really really nice to see that. So that's the one that came to mind for me.
Nice, nice. That's a good one. That's a good one. You thought about it. I told you, you probably got a lot of them. So
I have a few. Yeah, I've got a
yeah,
few.
yeah. That's always good. All right, and then my last question before we wrap. So I'm gonna circle back to the beginning as you gave your introduction. So I know you said that your biggest goal was or biggest way to make an impact is just making sure you did right by everybody, and just making an impact and making sure you do well and helping others. What's one thing that you're most proud of now in your situation as far as what you're doing now? What makes you proud?
Well, I think what makes me proud is just the like when we get thank you cards, and I mean, sometimes I get crap. I do, like like, Luke, markets down, do something, but most of the time it's all really positive feedback that I get from people, and that just reaffirms what I'm doing is the right thing. People really value what I'm doing for them. We ended up building relationships, like you and I mean, we built a relationship. And that's something that I'm really, like I said, really gives me a lot of gratification in what I do. It's like nothing else. I mean, this career is something that I'm just unbelievably happy about doing. And to get that positive feedback from people that, when people say things like, I couldn't have done this without you, and I don't know what I'd do without you. I am so glad I have you for this. That stuff's just it's it's invaluable. It really is. So
Perfect. As I told you, professionalism at his best. He knows what he's talking about. He's certified. He's just not just any social media financial advisor, planner. I told you I'm only going to bring you the best. So, Luke, go ahead and share your screen and show everybody how they can find you.
yeah, absolutely. Let's see here. All right, can you see that?
Yep, there you go.
All right, so the website is up here. You can see it. I don't know if you can see it up here, but it's Risley
Yep.
Marino
Right there.
Group.saterainvestors.com. I am part of a group that's not just me. We have this is my partner, my advisor partner, who's been doing this over 45 years, my assistant. And we actually just hired another advisor who will be starting with us come April. So I am part of a group. So that's our website up there. And then here's my contact information, my email, and my phone number there. If you want to get in touch, like I said, happy to have any conversations. If you want to reach out, if you have questions, I'd be happy to provide value to the network.
Perfect. All right, I'm gonna show one other place they could find you. So, especially with everybody watching the playback, one other place you could definitely find them is in the Nothing Boy of Entrepreneur Network. So if you click on Entrepreneur Network on the drop down and then look for members. Now, I went through, Luke, you got to finish your profile because there's no picture. It just says LP Marino.
I
So
told you I'm not a social media
yep,
guy.
yep. So once he finishes that up, you'll be able to find him easily. So again, Luke, I love all the information you gave us tonight. I appreciate you. Hope everyone finds value in this. Again, I ask these people from the bottom of my heart to come and give a couple minutes, and I know what they're passionate about because I know these people in real life. So when I bring people on, I know that they'll speak from the heart. They won't guide you the wrong way, and they're here to help, and that's our goal with the Nothing But Web Entrepreneur Network. So Luke, any words for the audience before we part?
No, I just want to say thank you, Quentin, for having me be a part of this. I know we've been talking about this for a while, and you know it's an honor. It's an honor to be a part of this, and you know it's so, like I said earlier, it's so surreal to kind of see this where it is now. You know, it's really cool. So you know,
Yeah.
I'm proud of you, and
Thank you.
uh,
Appreciate it.
this is great.
All right. Those that are not members yet, all you have to do is go to www.nothingbutwebllc.com. In the top right corner, click the sign in button or just become a member. You get access to wonderful videos like this. You can see the playback, those that join late. If you want to watch a playback, it'll be available this week. But again, this is the Business Blueprint. This is our premiere show on the network. And if you have any questions, send me a message. But again, have a great night. And Luke, once again, thank you for your hard work, dedication, and everything you do for the people.
Thanks, Quentin.
Perfect.